What's up, guys? Welcome to the KFO Show, episode number 27. I can't believe we made it this far. 27 episodes. So pretty pumped about that. Guys, we got a killer show tonight. Got Peter Husser, My Chaotic Fishing, on tonight. And we're going to be talking about kayak fishing, probably go off the deep end on strategy. And man, he's been putting up some bigs lately down there in Dallas, Fort Worth. So we're going to bring him on a little bit. But before we get there, I got some news and updates for you. A lot of people, though, you watch on YouTube and maybe even on the live show right now, but you may not know that we have a podcast, and the podcast kind of taken off. We're getting an average of 500 plays per episode. So if you're listening in on the podcast, driving on your way to work, while you're working out, thank you so much. Glad you're out there. And so that's pretty awesome. I want to thank a couple people here, Jason Overholt and Suzanne Tyson, recent channel members on the YouTube channel over here. And so I run a little promo every single week. If you sign up to be a channel member, I give a $10 Cast Crate gift card to you, as well as a bunch of other stuff as well. And if you don't know what that is, head over to my YouTube channel, hit join, and you'll see a video. I kind of explain it. There's a few tiers there. It's really just me going the extra mile for some of my inner circle. And so they help guide kind of the channel, give me some honest feedback. They're able to see a lot of the videos before they go live, kind of sneak peeks. And so thank you so much, Jason and Suzanne, for locking arms with me on that. Guys, the Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series has begun for Team Wendell, and there has already been some bass on the board. Let me go ahead and throw this up here. There might have been some inches thrown up recently, because I pulled this screenshot a couple hours ago. But here we go. Team Wendell. So I think we have a total of like 35 people in the team right now. Only 12 have posted fish, anywhere from 13 inches to 92. I am currently in first place for Team Wendell. I had a banger couple days, a few days ago, putting up 92 inches. And I just have a feeling someone's going to sneak by me. I cannot win my own tournament. So you can just I'm just doing it because I don't want to ask people to do something I'm not willing to do. And I thought it'd be fun to get out there and fish alongside of the team. So just pretend I don't even exist. I'm just there for fun. And Brian Slayton, number 2, 81.5 inches. Brian, you might better know him as the Creek Crawler. He was on the show last week and he was like, hey, I'm going to sign up for that. And already putting inches on the board. Got a bunch of other names on there. Bill Alton coming in third place, 76 inches. Jesse Kinzer, 73. Fishing with Gramps, get off my board. 71 point. He's anchoring his own team. So we have this little fun thing. I signed up for his team. He signed up for mine. And so we're poking the bear there a little bit. And so if you haven't signed up for this, guys, if you don't know what it is, you must not have been on the show because I talk about it all the time. But what it is, essentially, I'm running 4 1-month tournaments. And if you sign up for one of those, the entry fee is $15. And you can win a chance to be on one of the slots on my team. There's going to be a total of 4 of them. So if you win one of the 1-month tournaments, we're going to travel down to like Gunnersville on Veterans Day weekend and fish off against a bunch of other teams. So Fluke Master, Hoover, Rudd, Aggressively Average Anglers. You got Larry Melton Jr., Fishing with Gramps, Clay Guida, and the list continues to grow as Chad continues to add teams. So if you haven't done that, head over to thefishingchaos.com, search, find a tournament, and type in Knucklehead, and that will pop up. Love to have you join, and you can join in the 11th hour if you want, if you just want to have a little bit of fun doing that. All right. Remember, this is an interactive show. Interact with one another over in sometimes I notice a lot of these conversations. I know in the podcast you can't see this, but there is a live show smorgasbord of conversations. Sometimes has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Other times it does. But I'm pretty excited to have Peter on the show, My Chaotic Fishing. Peter, welcome to the show, my man. Number one question for you. What happened to your original My Chaotic Fishing Instagram? Had over 100,000 followers, 5 million likes. What happened there?
Which one?
I thought I saw that somewhere.
Am I late to the party?
Huh?
I said, am I late to the party? Was there already a My Chaotic Fishing Instagram?
No, I thought I saw one. You were I was scrolling through your new Instagram, and didn't you post something where at one time it was over 100,000?
So I've done. I've done a bunch of social media in the past, and I may have shared one of my old profiles that wasn't dedicated to fishing. I know I used to work tech industry, so I mean, there's a bunch of pages that I've phased out because they were just for testing. But I did hang on to one of the TikTok pages that was like 100,000. It's a trash page, full disclosure. Like there's nothing, you know what I mean? There, it was like an old leftover test page, and so we ended up linking back. And fishing industry, you've got to be creative in finding ways to make money. So we funnel some affiliate links through there, and
Hey, you know
what it is.
Do what you got to do. So Dallas Fort Worth, tell us your story.
Man, I came out about 12 years ago. I grew up in the little town of Greenfield, California. And for anybody who is familiar with the state, knows that there's no fishing where I grew up. You pretty much work on a ranch, or you drive a tractor, or you work on a ranch. Like that's it. It's 100% ag. And in another previous life, I played race car driver and did all that fun stuff. So I traveled all over the country, working for all the big manufacturers from Mazda to Mercedes, Bentley to Toyota, everybody. And man, I loved when we'd come out to Texas, right? Yeah. State Fair, all the different auto shows, various different racetracks. This is all pre-COTA. So, not to squirrel off, but yeah, so pre-COTA. So there's a lot of little private racetracks, all that jazz. And about 12 years ago, a company that my wife runs, the owner said, "Hey, I was thinking of relocating out to Texas." And I was like,
"Come on.
Sign me up. Let's go." And man, it's just, I mean, it seems every puddle and creek has a bass in it. It may not be a big old Josh Jones double digit, but you know what I mean? You go to your local Walmart and get you some of them little 1/8 ounce, pond hopper spinner baits, and you'll get something. You'll get something. All right. So that wound us up here. And I played auto industry for a while. Dad passed away about 2-3 years ago, and we had put ourselves in a position where I had the opportunity to kind of find, but the second half of your life, I'm going to be 40 in 2 years. So, okay. Kind of figure out what we want to do. And when I lived out in California, Monterey Bay was where we went fishing. So sea bass, the salmon runs, all that different stuff. And it was all offshore. Right. And we were out in my parents' little, what do we have? It's like a 21-foot bay liner, like nothing crazy. I remember, it was, I think it was big enough for my dad to convince my mom that we could go fishing with him, but it was small enough that on rough days, like that horizon disappeared right in between swells. So, we'd go out there and go fishing. And so anywho, put ourselves in the position to kind of figure out what we wanted to do. And, after my dad passed away, I just really, really dove into fishing. Like, the minute we moved out here, the first thing I did is I found a local Bass Pro and went and picked up like a $60 combo. It was like, dude, I gotta have something. I'm a 5-minute walk from a creek. Right. And I knew that there was fish in there. So that was 12 years ago. And, here we are today with, little Instagram going, got the boat, the kayak, no shortage of banks to fish here in Texas, and kind of diving headfirst into it.
Yeah. So is this something you just do kind of on the side, or is this something you do are you able to do it like full time?
No, I've committed to the fishing industry basically probably 80% of my time. The other 20% is going to be divided up between family. We've got a 4-year-old that's the freaking little genius working on his like 4th grade homework. So, he's homeschooled. He gets to go on all my adventures with me. I take care of some family business stuff. Like I said, I do still dabble with some of the marketing to make sure I can generate income and pay bills. But yeah, I've committed to the fishing industry. So, fishing couple different boat tournament trails. About to start diving into some of the kayak stuff, the bank stuff, the online stuff, which, pre-Texas, there was no such thing as online fishing tournaments. I mean, you brought your fish to weigh in, and that's how you were judged. So, it's all an adventure. And that's kind of, I mean, that's my motto, right? Is just, it's all an adventure. It sounds cliche, but just trying to bring everybody with me and learn as we go. A lot like your channel, man. I literally caught myself, popping up one of your old videos that I had saved earlier today with the Kydex. I was like, man, what, you made some keel guards. I think you got like 2 videos on keel guards.
Yeah.
And I was like, what did he use that first time? Because I use Shugu.
Yeah.
But that first time you used a double stick tape.
I did.
And so I thought I'd give it a try, just for the fact of it wasn't what I used, and I wanted to try something else. And you've been rocking yours for over a year now, and it's still on there. So give it a shot.
Both of them are rocking out, right? First one's double stick tape, and that one's still good to go. That's coming up on 2 years. And then the other one, what did I use recently? Goop, marine goop.
Yeah.
Because when it dries, it doesn't turn yellow, so you don't want that yellow ring on the outside. But yeah,
right.
So far, so good. So, man, so everybody, this is literally the definition of living the dream. Committed to the fishing industry. Who wants to be committed to the fishing industry? I know I do. 80% of my time.
Now, I got to give that with a word of warning. Because
no, right now it's like it's this dream that everyone has. Don't bring it back down to reality.
No, everything's got to be real, right? And that's when I was trying to figure out a moniker, I was like, do we go with the last name? Do I come up with something else? And I'm sitting in my garage having a cold beer, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, God, there's EDF RC jets. There's a RC sailboat. There's, this and that, and just like so much different stuff. I'm like, dude, it's pure freaking chaos in my garage. I sat there and I was like, this is, how is this even going to work? And I just kind of came up with my Kayak Fishing, and, self-diagnosed ADHD, right? There's always at least a dozen little projects going on in the garage. From a lot of industries that I've gone into and come out of in the past, that were hobbies that I was successful at, most recently was the RC industry. Grew up doing a lot of that stuff and had national titles and all that jazz, and turned it into a business, and, just unfortunately got into business with some of the wrong people, and I had to kind of back away from it. So, I love what I do, and I would highly encourage anybody, to pursue your passion. If it's fishing, whatever it is, but as today's shows go, if it's fishing, like, definitely head first, right? But always keep that important part to you. Make that the principle of everything that you're doing, right? So for some people it's a therapy, for some people it's their competitive nature, right? And that's how they get it out. If you've got a 9 to 5 and you're doing that, but the weekends is where you blow that steam. And if it's beating the banks, if it's doing tournaments, if it's making content, if it's whatever it is, but just always keep that main principle of why is it important to you. Sure. Make sure that drives everything that you do, because there's always options in the road. And I'd hate for anyone to ever have their passion ruined, as some of my previous ones are. So rather than
you made it into a job, is that what you're referring to?
What's that?
Because you made it into a job, or?
Well, man, it's tough. I mean, in the past, everything that I've done is always building for other people.
Sure.
And it's been, full disclosure, there's built multi-million-dollar businesses, but it's for other people.
Sure.
And so that was my wife's big thing is, hey, you do it for everybody else. That's all you've ever done. Whether it was the auto industry and different companies that you worked with, whether it was RC industry and different companies that you worked with, it was always for somebody else. Why don't you just focus on you? So I guess to try to encapsulate some of the chaos, right, is just bring it back. And if you're pursuing the fishing industry, make it about you, right? Make it about you and what you're passionate about, and the aspect of it that makes you happy. There's, I've got great friends that are, if it's not a 9-inch swim bait or above, right, it's don't even talk to them. That is what their world revolves around, right? Or if it's not, being in front of a screen scoping, right? They've latched onto that. They love it. They're passionate about it. But if you're not talking about something, on live, and so it can be anything you want it to be. Just keep that focus on whatever aspect drives you, whatever aspect makes you happy. Like that's the jam.
No, yeah, man, I love it. You're interesting dude. I could ask like so much more probing questions right now, but we're gonna switch gears a little bit.
Don't
I
do
got
it.
the comments over here. Yeah, I know, right? I have a feeling it could be a deep dark rabbit hole, and I want to head over to some more kayak fishing and fishing related stuff. Alice says, "I hate my job. It cuts into my fishing time. Love it." Frank,
Yes.
jobs are the worst. Alice, mainstream. He's a Sixth Sense guy, so he's down with me. Awesome. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Bucktail said, "My therapy that's more expensive than my therapist, which is kayak fishing." But he also
Like
says
whatever you
much
need to
more
do to
effective.
justify it, though.
Hey,
Like,
you know
either
what?
that's-
I totally resonate with your story, right? Because I'm 41, and for the last 20 years, I've been grinding for nonprofits, which I don't regret. But I was like, okay, I have one more reinvention of myself in me, and it's going to be all in on myself for the first time in my life, and I'm gonna go for kayak fishing because I love it so much. And so, man, no better time in the history of mankind to go all in on you, whatever it is that you want to do. Let's go ahead and switch gears here a little bit. The theme of the show tonight was really talking about kayak fishing strategy, because I've noticed you've been putting up some bigs. I know you like swim baits. I do notice that you tend to lean towards Sixth Sense, and wanted to how do I propose this? Or here's the question: kayak fishing strategy. Let's take a deep dive. Start to finish, what is your game plan when you wake up in the morning?
So I'm first and foremost, like I'm not connected to any of the company's products that I use. Right at the end of the day, I want to catch fish,
Yeah.
but I've developed preferences, and one of them, as of the re-release of their app, Humminbird has, in my opinion, their mapping is it's second to none right now, and I think it's like $20 a year for their app, and it has every high def contour line map in the entire country. Doesn't matter where you were. I was out in California a few weeks back, and wanted to look at a lake that was near me. I downloaded the little section of the country, for that. So it's not like having to buy a bunch of cards, but where does it start when I wake up? It starts long before I go fishing.
Okay.
Right. And it's map study. For kayak fishing, it's going to be where are my access points, right? Because you can look up the arm of a lake and it looks super juicy, but I mean, if it's unrealistic to get there on your kayak, whether you're pedal power, whatever, that kind of takes things out of the equation. So it doesn't really matter how good a part of the lake is if you can't get to it. Right. So it starts with that map study. All the different reasons for the different times of year. And down here in the South, just example, where I live on Ray Hubbard. We live on a peninsula, kind of how that worked, how all of the plans just come together without
sounds amazing.
knowing
That's
it was
awesome.
going to happen. But, when you're looking at those maps, you got to figure out, okay, first, where do I launch from? and how do I get from that launch point to my fishing area? And then how are you going to tack on? Because even when I'm fun fishing, right? I was out till, full disclosure, I was out till probably 1 o'clock this morning, out in the marina, and there's some contours at an 8 to 12 foot level that I've previously marked some things on that hold fish in a post spawn pattern. I know this from previous years of fishing it. And for all the bank beaters out there, guess what? All of those brush piles and rock piles and, underwater structure things that I marked, I knew to look there because I was dragging a jig probably 4 or 5 years ago when we first moved into the house that we live in now. I went out into that marina and through a jig, I buried the hook inside of the plastic to try to not get hooked. But it was 100% with the intention of figuring out like bottom composition. And so anywho, last night, just the opportunity arose. It was like 9:30. Said, "Hey wife, you mind if I, go out in the marina? I want to see if they're there." And so, in those areas, I went out. And marinas
Everybody else is going to bed at 9:30, by the way. This guy's going out to go fishing.
Man, it's my kid wakes up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock. So I'm like, as long as I get like a 5 hour, that's kind of what I run on, about 5, 6 hours. That's it.
You give it 2 more years, you hit 40, starts going all downhill, my friend.
I don't mean to rephrase it, but earlier you literally said, "Hey, don't bring it back to reality." We're not worried.
All right, keep going.
Future self gonna worry about that. But yeah, so waking up, starting with that map study. The game plan last night, I knew that area that in previous years, in a post spawn that some of those spawners have moved out to, and wanted to see if they were out there. I will say it was blowing like 16 to 20. It was pretty spicy. But in terms of kayak theory and everything like that, marinas are generally well protected. Some of them are have some sort of lighting, so you're not just pitch black horizon, which is nice, at least for me. But and I saw that the storms that we had moving through the DFW were, roughly 50 to 70 miles northeast, moving in that direction. I said, okay, cool. Like, I'm not going to have the threat of rain. I'm not going to have the threat of lightning, all the different stuff. So you talk about planning. I mean, Texas weather, you got to plan for it for sure, especially in springtime. But yeah, so going out there and then also mentally preparing too, because social media is so many things. Not going to go down that rabbit hole, but
you got the history there, right? You know too much.
Yeah.
Don't go there. Don't go there right now. I'm sorry.
You like wish you could forget about. But I see a lot of people, man, that go out fishing and they talk about how they're on like a 2-week slump or whatever the case. Full disclosure, one of the things that I thought about last night is, and as you can tell, I squirrel a little bit, but I prepared myself for not catching, because the reality is, if I'm going to target it literally, there were like 4, 5, 6 little spots that I wanted to check. And I knew that would probably take me from, when I hit the water at 9:30, I had a target of get home at midnight. That shifted a little bit, but
always.
Yeah, I knew that, 3 hours, because I figured about half an hour per little area that I wanted to look at. And that's something that I've been, as I dive more into boating tournaments, I really tried to focus on how I allot my time. And so, getting out there, getting to those spots, figuring out, okay, do I throw a Carolina rig, around the outskirt of the area? Do I drag a jig right through it? Do I swim bait right over the top of it? All the different stuff. I could load 20 rods and half a tackle shop onto my boat. You don't do that on a kayak. So kayak fishing has greatly increased my efficiency for that prior planning, because when you messaged me earlier, you said, hey, 3 baits, and I literally went into the garage and grabbed 3 that I had literally brought out last night. Because again, you get out there, you've got it tied up, you throw it, you execute, and then you make a deduction based on your results. So anywho,
Well, let's go ahead and let's get into a little more tactical here. You got them right behind you. Walk us through what you have hooked up right now. And you said you're in post spawn down there in Dallas Fort Worth, right?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
like right now, we're right on the cusp of spawn up here in Northeast Ohio. So everyone else is anywhere in between.
That's such an exciting time, though. You guys are like,
it is.
I mean, you got gas on the ground and a match in your hand. You about ready to tear into
I mean, anything. They'll bite anything right now. I'm getting ready to go fishing with a guy who's like, hey, I'm going to travel. I'll travel an hour. I live an hour and a half away from you. I'll see you on Saturday morning at like 5:30. He's like, what should I hook up? I was like, anything right now. I mean, absolutely. I got big swim baits. I got a mega bass. What did I just buy recently? One of those mag
draft?
Yeah. Got an 8-inch one of those. I had one hit this morning on it, which is a lot of fun. Got an S
That'll get you some
waiver.
inches.
Say what?
I said that'll get you some inches for the tournament.
Oh yeah. It was crazy. The thing that bit it today was like, it was only like maybe 12 inches hitting a 8-inch mag draft.
I mean, but what a huge clue that is, right? To be able to, process of elimination here, right? So in an area where you're fishing an 8-inch swim bait, and they are just so fired up aggressive right now, that a 12-inch fish is going to go after that, So in terms of figuring out staging and patterns, if you know that those, whatever depth you were at, whatever the temperature was, right? Couple that data with if you were in moving water, whatever the case, because I know up that way is a totally different game. Shout out to the creek crawler, because that episode was freaking awesome. Like talking about land rights, and they own the land under the water and all that. Here in Texas, anybody on YouTube, right, has seen enough videos of like the classic one, right, Ike and Ellie, where he's like, all right, like, I understand I'm gonna leave, and then the lady gets an attitude and he's like, yeah, I ain't leaving. In Texas, in a lot of the places in the country, I'll just speak from personal experience, right? Like, I fish a lot of areas that are in private areas, so not private water, but areas that you can't drive into. It's a gated community, or it's a pay to use marina, whatever the case, but they don't own the water. So it was an eye-opening episode. I definitely recommend anybody watching tonight be able to go back and check out that creek crawler episode, because it was very cool. It was very cool. I mean,
the crazy thing about that is that rights are different for each state. Right, because I've had John from Creek Fishing Adventures over, and it was completely different rules for him. For him, it was you almost split the creek in half, and if this person over here owns it, you can't fish on that half. So if they ask you to move, you literally just got to move to the other side of the creek and fish that side, and you're legal. It's crazy. Laws are different every state you're in. And Is Texas? So I've known. So crazy story here, real fast. Back in 2015, I ran across the country, and I ran across Texas. Took me 100 days. I did 100 marathons in 100 days. Coast to coast. Started out in Santa Monica Pier on January 1st and finished in Times Square on April 10th. Just type in "Run Dare and Run" on YouTube, and on Google, and you'll see a bunch of articles on it. Yes. Nonetheless, the second I came into Texas, I came in from New Mexico, right? And when I went in New Mexico, everyone's like, hey, how's it going? And almost like the next sentence was, hey, when you leaving? That's just like New Mexico, right? And the second I entered into Texas, I had like 5 people stop on the side of the road and ask me if I wanted like a ride. Like super, super nice. Is it the same way when it comes to fishing, or do people, because I know like land rights in Texas is like, land rights in Texas. Is it a big deal?
So, man, when people are like, "Oh, you're from California," when I'm in Texas, when people are like, "Oh, you're from California," that just right off the bat, there's the political preconceived notions, all that different jazz. I grew up in farm country, so we had, where I lived didn't have a ton of fishing. We generally went out, but as I got older and was doing some traveling, um, you hop on Google Maps. Just a quick not so pro tip, right? When you're on Google Maps and you're looking and you see the terrain and all that different stuff, turn all that jazz off. Turn it to that brown and white, like just basic layer, so that your little ponds like stick out at you, because a lot of times, probably some of the best ones, you're not going to pick them up if you're looking at the aerial view. So turn the aerial view off. Anywho, not so pro tip of the day. But yeah, so I call them get shot ponds, right? And
Say that again.
get shot ponds,
Got it.
right? Those are, you want to stay out of those, because the area of California I was in, very, very about their rights. And there were some places that, like I said, in my later teenage years, we'd find someone on Google Maps and literally just drive up to the house, knock on the door, and be like, "Hi." Me and my buddies saw, pond back there, and they said, "No, we'd really rather not have a bunch of," oh, say no more, right? And so anyway, that was a joke, and it kind of stuck. And especially when I moved to Texas, I was like, hey, we're some, if it's private and you can't just drive to it, you might, I've been politely asked to leave. There's a lot of construction in the DFW.
Okay.
I'm not going out to hit ponds that are just being made, but there's so many creeks, tributaries, stuff off of lakes, right? That for however long, just raw land, right? Now they're building around it. Well, whereas before you could either, throw the boots on and go for a hike, whatever the case. Now there's a road that's, right next to it. But if it's in a construction zone, you kind of always run that risk of security guard pulling up and telling you to scram. So I've had some Paul Blart incidents recently that were, man, I didn't know you could throw so many lights on a 1997 Dodge Ram pickup truck, but let me tell you, it got bright real quick. But yeah, as far as, generally, like all the lakes and the Texas Corps of Engineers, all that different stuff. I mean, once you're on the water, you're on the water.
Yeah.
You've got to have your fishing license, all that jazz. But I mean, our game wardens and all that stuff. There's one that I run into out here on Lake Ray Hubbard, all the time, asking me how the bite is and, all that different stuff. And man, that I don't know the guy personally. I know him in passing from, I've seen him from the bank. I've seen him, run into him with a kayak on the boat, not literally, just figuratively, but, man, he's I gotta imagine that guy's off time. He's probably doing a little dangling. So, as far as that goes in Texas, it's generally just be respectful.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
about it. That's about
So
it.
you have a boat, you have a kayak.
Two
How do
kayaks.
you determine two kayaks? Yeah, because you have the newest one, which
Yep.
is Old Town, right?
Yep. Yep.
Autopilot. I saw that. But you have
Got
an older
the
one that
AP.
you like modded out to the T.
So
How do
there,
you
yeah.
You got three. How do you choose which one? Share us about your kayaks and your setups.
So we're down to two. Um, I think everybody's apprehensively about, whatever they do, but I know that with myself, man, when I dive into a passion, it can get deep. It can get real deep real quick. And
Real expensive.
and so it can. And so I found a 12-foot Teton Pro, just a lifetime. And some of the guys said, "Well, I used to surf and wakeboard and wake surf and all that stuff a lot, so that's why you can stand up in it, but most people can't." I don't know. To me, honestly, for a $500 kayak, that lifetime Teton Pro, it's a 12-foot kayak. I've been out in decent rollers and all that stuff, man. It was awesome. Converted it to foot pedal steering, put the trolling motor on the back. That was a $20 Facebook Marketplace find. You know, added rod holders and graphs. Dude, at one point, little embarrassed. So at one point in time, just because I wanted to see like side to side comparisons and in all honesty, probably I should have got a lot of the stuff on video, but again, keeping myself being somewhat selfish, right at the core of pursuing this passion. The video content wasn't like just wasn't the primary thing. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to do this to make a video. Now, my mentality's gone from, man, I need to share this experience. But back to the slightly embarrassed thing, right? Had a $500 kayak with a Garmin 93 UHD SV on it for doing side scan, down scan, 2D. And then I had a Helix Humminbird 9 because I have absolutely fallen in love with 360. By the way, if you had to pick 360 over live, it's 360 all day.
Okay.
But yeah, so there were, had 360 on it, had Garmin, Humminbird, like all the different stuff. It was on a $500 kayak.
Yeah, you sound like a low life angler over here.
Dude, all about it.
More than the kayak itself.
Yeah. I just didn't care, right? I'll keep it PG rated, but I had zero of those, right? That affect, your opinion of, okay, why are you doing what you're doing? And, what are other people's opinions about it? Like I had, that field of F's was just empty. I had none to give because it was all about, I wanted to see it. I wanted to see it side by side and understand the differences. And, anywho, so that was a lot of fun. Anywho, sold that kayak. I did tell myself, I'm like, man, garage is getting a little packed. And we're not.
Your garage is packed. I saw a video of it. You could barely walk through that thing. It's full of fishing gear and other things.
Stuff, yeah. So I knew the 12-footer had to go. And so sold that for like $800 because I sold it almost ready to go. I didn't have graph on it, but it was the lithium battery and all that different stuff. Man, if you ever want to have an episode on electronics and lithium batteries,
you're the man.
Make sure you don't have a battery sponsor because they're not going to like what I have to say.
They're not going to like that.
They won't like it. I promise you they won't like it. But yeah. And
give us the cliff notes real quick. Cause I thought you had 100 amp hour, like shoved on, barely fit into the hatch of that.
Yeah.
Of that angler thing you had.
Yeah. And I can tell you, what was it? Like 13.6 miles. It went at like,
oh, wow.
Throttle. Yeah. I mean, with the amp meter on it and all that different jazz, I tell you the milliamp hour it was pulling and at what amperage and all that. Yeah. I had 100 amp hour stuffed inside the nose of that thing just because of the way that it floated, and so, where does it create buoyancy, right? Which is how kayaks are stable or not. And do they float, nose or ass heavy, all that different jazz. Yeah, it was freaking rad, honestly. And so it wasn't 2 days after I sold it, the guy was sending me messages on Instagram, talking about how stoked he was.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm always apprehensive about even like the recent giveaway that I did, man. I've done so much of that stuff in the past where, somebody buys something from you or somebody wins something from you and they might as well fall off the face of the planet. You never hear from them again. So I've definitely received a warm welcome from the fishing community in the sense that, the guy that bought that kayak was shooting me messages with, fish pics and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, it generally it warms the heart. Even yesterday when I got messages from a recent giveaway winner about how, him and his friends went and caught like 40 fish and they just were blown away by how well that bait worked. Side note, I'm tying into the 3 special baits, right?
There we go. Segue coming, folks.
He got his new PB and all that different jazz. We were on our way to a T-ball game with my wife and kid. And I looked at my wife, I'm like, man, I feel so like kind of cheesy, corny to say this, but I'm like, dude, I get like the warm fuzzies. Like I'm stoked that this dude is so fired up about it. It's not like some special homemade bait that I gotta, go to www.myspecialbait.com or something, it's an off-the-shelf thing that I've found works really well. And it's a little bit different than what a lot of people throw. And you know how that goes, man, a little bit different. Like your 8-inch mag draft. If they're biting on that, it's just different from whatever everybody else is throwing. So
It's different. It's not as different than the guy who is fishing a lake near me, and he told me about it just a few days ago. And then he catches like this monster right in front of my face. I was like, well, there goes $30. Those things aren't cheap. Like $25 with $5 shipping, and you got yourself a mag draft, perfect to hang up on any underwater stump the first cast you throw it. But I didn't do it. But I know that it's coming. I'm like open water only for that thing, at least so I get some mileage out of it. But here I got some comments over here real
Yeah.
fast, and then I want to circle back to you because I asked you to bring like what you have tied on now, which for a lot of us here in the country will be like what we have tied on in the weeks to come. So it's almost like I'm looking into my future about some things that work for you. Now, granted, in Texas, a little bit different, but also the same.
Well,
All right, let's head back here.
Yeah, fish behavior and all that jazz. I see we got some Tamarack pros in there. That's the other one, by the way.
We
That's
do.
Kayak.
Bearded Dad Fishing. He was on the show a couple weeks ago, and
Yes.
shout out to the old. He's got an autopilot. I just saw a short of him today riding in his autopilot. Fishing with Gramps got an autopilot. Loves that thing. I have not talked to a single person who owns a Old Town autopilot, and they not just like talk about it like their first love. I mean, there has not been a one negative comment that I've ever heard on the OT autopilot.
You can there honestly there was I would say in the circle of people that I talk with a lot, fishing wise here in DFW, North Texas, DFW more specifically. The big thing was, man, the thing's a tank, it's heavy, this and that. I mean, but you know it going into it. It's 120 some odd pounds. Is what it is. But
my bona fide P127 non-motor is 130 pounds.
Yeah. So doesn't seem to be. Yeah.
I still drag it around on sidekicks.
Yeah. But I will say going from a lifetime to that Old Town was like, I remember the first time I took it out, I was like, this is freaking ridiculous, man. I'm on a pontoon boat. Like I felt like I was on a pontoon boat. And I understand a little bit about dynamics and the way the hull's built, and it is kind of like a pontoon in terms of that's how it encourages buoyancy. But yeah, man, it is dude, I mean, like last night, it's blowing 15 to 20, freaking nose taking on. So forget how windy it was. The rollers were coming over the bow, right? It was like, when it would dive down, the next one would up over the top. Of course, I got scupper plugs out, so then I'm in an area that I'm pretty familiar with. But and I was standing up. But I guess
it happen. You're making it happen out there.
It's just I'm so comfortable on that thing, and every opportunity I can get out and around different environments with it. But yeah, I saw somebody had a Tamarack, so that is the other kayak I have. It is less stable than the Teton. However, the thing only weighs like 50 pounds. So I kept that one, and I had a reason to keep it because, man, there's these culverts, there's these little skinny water areas that, either parking is non-existent, whatever the case. Man, I'll have like 2 rods and a little tackle sack attached to the waist, and I can literally put that thing on my back and go down the side of a hill. I rode it down a grass hill one time. It was, again, all the things that should be on video.
Where's that at?
But here I am just going, man, but it's for, it's maybe I need to amass a certain amount of experiences before I'm like, all right, it needs to all go on video now. But yeah, the Tamarack Pro, I think at that $300 price point, it's light. If you're sitting down on it, I do have some seat risers because I do stand up on it, but it's just I like it. It's a great little kayak.
Yeah. We got some comments over here, and I'm going to switch over and let you talk about what you have rigged up here. Let me see right here. Yeah, Low Life Angler said, I like my Old Town. I'm good with he likes Old Town, but he's good with his 400 lifetime. You know what? Sometimes I recommend that to people. Like, hey, I only got like, hey, what they always ask me a question, what kayak should I get? And first I got like 15 questions they have to answer. And then one of those questions is like, what's your budget? Which, a lot of times I go lifetime. I really do. Let me see.
They call it different things, different parts of the country, but yeah, that what's your budget is definitely, your best option, because, you know, for you and everything that you've done, you know, I'm like, when you first hit me up about being on the show, I was like, yeah, you've done a lot of stuff, man. You're very accomplished. So congratulations on that. And, you know, I'm stoked to be on the show, but, you know, you're an ambassador, right? You're an ambassador to the sport. And so if someone is showing interest, right, you've got to know, like, what is your price point? You know, because if you're like, hey, what kayak should I get? And you're like, oh, you got to get this, you know, $3,500 job, $5,500 job. And they're like, all right, yeah, another hobby. And they're just screen left. But, you know, if they're like, I don't know, about $500-600 as an ambassador, just my personal feeling on things is like, you should have some good options for those people, because it would be a disservice to that person if you were not able to say, hey, there's nothing, you know, there's no absolutes in fishing, but here's where I would steer you towards, because at the end of the day, you know, without squirreling off, it's kind of like Bass Pro Shops, right? A lot of people have a lot of opinions about Bass Pro, but they've probably increased awareness, you know, more than everybody else combined. And that's not to take away from anything anybody's doing on social media, because I'm big fans of a lot of people on social media, but certainly, you know, they've created an accessibility that can't argue with. You know, industry wouldn't be where it is without those high exposure businesses.
Yeah, for sure. And I was just thinking, I was having a conversation. Someone recognized me. I was out in the lake recently, and you said the business kayak fishing wouldn't be where it's at. And he said something I've never heard before. It's like kayak fishing wouldn't be where it's at without a lot of the awesome women in our lives who really take care of the household and allow us to go out all the time to the degree to which we go out. And so shout out to those awesome spouses and who kind of allow us to get this done. So it's a passion for many. If you're on here, you know, 9:23 on a Tuesday night, you're addicted and you are in the right place.
Yeah, I was gonna say, probably the right place though.
you are in the right place. Rewind Shot had a question here. He said, off topic, but if you tried out the 3D Yak rod stagers, look really cool. Ironically enough, I have those on the way. My dad's starting to get into kayak fishing, has a hard time reaching around and getting the rods out of like the back pole. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to get some rod stagers. So stay tuned. I am doing a video on those here soon. So great question. I've worked with 3D Yak for a couple of years now, done some videos for him. And so Greg is a pretty awesome guy and makes some quality stuff. So if you're thinking about ordering something from him, just do it. So everything I've got is always held up there. All right. So if you just chimed in, you might be like, who am I talking to? This is my chaotic fishing, Peter Husser from Dallas, Fort Worth. Man, it's been a fun conversation. This is one of those conversations that could go on for 2 hours, because there's just so much to talk about. But
before we went live, I said, don't let me squirrel, because we can go deep.
It'd be
a good time.
I like it. All right, so what do you got behind you? Show us what you got hooked up right now and why.
So like you said, from, you know, the kayak strategy, wake up, map study, plan where you're going, plan where you're launching, plan what you're going to cover. I'm not a smart dude. I'm just barely smart enough to know that there are other people out there who've already got it figured out. Right. And so what I literally went and grabbed from the yak before the show were 3 different baits. I would say slow, medium, fast, and or, you know, finesse and moving up from there. But, you know, once you've studied the map, once you got location, once you got launch, once you get there, what do? You know, are you throwing a buzzbait in 18 feet of water? Are you, you know, running an 8-inch mag draft? Are you, you know, throwing a slow sink swim bait? What are you doing? And I do derive more fun from that stuff, right? Like the what I call like crazy baits. So non-traditional baits to me are super fun to fish. Okay. But again, mentally, I prepare myself for not catching anything, and trying to extract as much knowledge and experience out of the, you know, out of each outing. But couple different things, and generally I go from fun to boring, if you will. That's just that's my raw feeling on it, right? And so fun to boring is gonna be a 4-inch swim bait. This is what I recently had in a giveaway. I'm throwing this on a 7.2 medium heavy mod fast. It means absolutely nothing because you get 5 rods that are 7.2 medium heavy mod fast, and they all feel different. I use a lot of the MFR rods. So if there's any MFRs,
You're a milking guy.
hope you guys are doing well. But I throw it on 15-pound fluoro. It's a 6.3, so a little bit slower reel. And all it is the Owner Flashy Swimmer.
Oh yeah, I got those in my garage. Those are nice.
This is a staple. It's always tied on. This is the 4-inch whale on the 5/0. It's a 5/0? Yeah, 5/0 Owner Flashy Swimmer.
Okay.
I don't want to say I've all but given up on. I used to throw the 3/0 with the 3.5-inch, and man, you can bop that through rocks, riprap, around trees, through grass, weeds, everything. And that smaller profile bait, I can say with 100% certainty, I'll probably get bit 3-to-1 over this 4-inch. That's in the last 5 years. I would say that's probably about the ratio. So if I was just fiending for a bite, I would downsize.
Size down, right?
But that little bit bigger, presentation seems to attract a little bit bigger bite. But that's my, throw it over that rock pile, run it along a couple docks on my way to a spot. Try not to squirrel off into, picking each dock apart, as I have done more times than I'd like to admit. But so that's my, my find and bait, right? And it's great because if you go out and you throw it through a couple docks, or you throw it through a couple areas where you're looking, and you get nipped, right? Either you're going to find out that you got some pesky white bass, bluegill, smaller fish, whatever the case, they're not committing. Then you make a choice, right? Do I slow down and inspect further, or do I keep moving? And so if I've thrown that and not getting any action, and I've graphed an area, I'm certain there's fish, or if I'm from the bank and I've, felt a couple bops along the way. Again, I used to throw something a little bit smaller than this, but this year I guess I'm not interested in that smaller bite. It doesn't do it for me. I've mentally gotten to that point where if I don't catch, I don't catch. But I know that there's fish there, and I've caught 3, 4, 5, 6 pounders in that area before. So I want that. I'm addicted to that. I'm willing to forego catching fish if it means getting that. So the next one, and this is a little bit more weedless, and it's tunable, I guess you'd say, but this shares a commonality with the third, which is the least fun bait for me to throw, in that this is a swing shake. So the head of your swim jig, and it moves independently. I'm sold on those. I started with the next bait that I'll have, and I stopped losing fish at the bank. That was the biggest play. So on the kayak and in the boat, I bring a net with me. I don't often use it just because I like the thrill of reaching down, grabbing fish. But I noticed it most from the bank, having that hook moving independently from the head. They couldn't shake it. And so I when that Axel swim jig came out, and again, I'm not connected. I don't have affiliate links, all that different jazz. I want to fish what I want to fish. And we're probably going to keep it that way for the foreseeable future. But so I used to fish a smaller one, and now it's it's a 5/0, again with that 4-inch whale. Man, tunability wise, it all depends, right? How weedless do you need it to be is going to be how deep you bury the hook. So, like on Friday, I head out to a lake northwest of Fort Worth, and I'll be throwing this a lot, but I'm, not even exaggerating, right? If you can see that hook there, let me find a contrasting background. There we go. So on Friday when I'm pre-fishing, I'm going to take that hook and it's inside. It's inside. I mean,
It's not like it's most would say skin hooked. You went a little deeper.
The class of fish that will, and I won't swing on it either. I say that, but like if I feel the right bite, I might. The class of fish that it's going to take to actually break, that plastic and get down to the hook. Like I said, I might swing on that one, but generally, right, I can go pre-fish with this, and I'm not giving a bunch of sore mouths, which means they're still, fairly catchable the next day. Versus if you go and hook a bunch of them, generally, that fish isn't going to be super bitey the next day. So don't go wear out your spots. But yeah, that swing head, swim jig, you can cover a lot of water with it. It's heavy enough to get down to some good depths. I mean, you can, summer fish this 15, 20 feet down. Doesn't take forever to get there, all that different jazz. But, it's a jig. It's a jig. And there's not a whole lot more to say about that. That's just, preferences. Biggest thing on that is that it's got that swinging head. And so, yeah. And that's on what's that?
Oh, sorry. I thought you moving on to your least fun.
Yes.
I'm curious what that one is.
And that's 15-pound fluoro. This is a 7.4 heavy mod. So this is that Zark rod. I use it for a lot of different things, but man, you swing on a fish that's too small, that little dude is gonna go for a ride.
Going outer space.
I feel bad when I'm like, that fish just comes flying out of the water into the side of the kayak or the boat or man, I legitimately feel bad. People are like, you're hooking them through the lip and da-da-da. No, but I feel bad when they thud against.
Yeah, they smack the side of your kayak. Yeah.
So the least fun, but definitely always have it tied on. And actually 2 weeks ago when I pre-fished a lake for a tournament this coming weekend, it was a clue that just, I thought, okay, post spawn, looking for shad spawns early in the day, looking for little oil slicks, looking for, all the different signs, moving fish, all that different jazz. And about 11:30, honestly, I was like, man, I might use this one as my drop because this is ridiculous. I mean, I had plenty of bites. I had a couple white bass. I say a couple. I had like 5 or 6 white bass. And I was just like, this is not fun. And again, staying centric on, do what you do and why you do it. And so my wife was like, yeah, it sounds like you really, like you stopped caring and you started catching. So yes, my wife was right? You have to, you got to know when to admit it, but
right.
It is, so it's a shaky head. This is this is the smaller, I think one is a 3/8 and one is 5/16 and then a 3/8 or half ounce, something like that. Anywho, this is a smaller 3/0 size. I like the body of the bigger, like 7-inch worm, whatever it is. But the length, I chop it down so that head literally just meets right up with the hook. You see, it's got that flat side, but again, that you can see the hook swinging independently from the weight. And dude, I stopped losing fish, especially at the bank. That was the biggest thing for me. I stopped losing fish. You can fish just like a shaky head, real finessey. You can, throw like a Texas rig, all that different stuff. But, the way that I rig it up too, I'd probably lose less soft plastics if I didn't do this, but it has created an opportunity to get through some pretty thick cover. If you look, that head is kind of tilted all the way back. And so if I pull on the head of that swing shake, you see that it pulls forward, and it's basically, I've got it tensioned with that worm, And kind of what that creates is the ability for that head, if it gets wedged, as I pull, to pop it loose, that head rotates, and the amount of stuff that I've broken off has drastically increased too. Is it because of the head? The amount of fish that I've lost to the bank dramatically decreased. Is it because of the head? So whatever your preferred terminal tackle manufacturer, if they have something like this, it's not quite like the biffle, the football jig with the independent hook. It's not that, because you still are, I'm still connected to the head. It's not just a full blown, swinging hook.
Right.
But which is a Texas summer staple, but it's just different enough that and I've caught enough fish on it to where I've always got one tied on. So
Man, 100%, man. I love this.
I don't know.
So no, you took a deep dive, and I've never heard what you just said on the shaky head. I don't think I've ever actually even seen one of those before. I didn't even know they existed. I'm just now getting into shaky head fishing myself. It seems to be something that's being like a resurgence. I've heard more people talking about shaky head fishing in the past 3 months than I have in years. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Usually it's just me.
Everything that was old is new again, right? At some point
right.
in time, I guess. The other thing too that I'm a sucker. Berkeley makes a really good hook with this setup. These obviously all come with them, but that screw lock, I love screw lock hooks.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what it is about, like, just, and I say this, all due respect, but I'm like the old school, EWG, where I've got to slide the bait up the hook and all that jazz. I mean, there's obviously nothing wrong with that. Like, it's arguably caught. No, you can't even argue it. It's caught more fish, right, in the history of fishing. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I will say that screw lock, I feel like, for the importance that some people put on having your I'm trying to move this with a good contrast. So for the importance that people put with having, the right orientation, or your bait being, from the hook across the hook point and all that different jazz. And I get it. That's for hook up and when a fish bites down, all that different jazz. For the importance that people put on that, I sure am able to get a much better angle on my bait from the head of that bait to the point of that hook with the screw lock stuff. I don't know, man. Maybe I suck at using, like, the regular tackle, and if that's the case, so be it. I've got options that work for me.
No, I hear you. I think I'm there. I think I'm there as well. I mean, if you haven't never put your hands on a screw lock before, it's just like, oh, where have you been all my life? And why is this so much easier than before? And why is this never going to fall or slip or whatever? And I'm gonna have to continue to, every time I reel it in, adjust it. You don't do that anymore.
That was a huge one too, right? You just don't waste time. You can sit there and cast and cast and cast and cast and cast until you need to replace your plastic. I will say, just depending on whatever screw lock you have on there, no way the camera's going to pick this up. But the way that screw lock attaches at the top point, like in this case on the head of that weight. From the factory, and just because I've been in manufacturing before, they're trying to make it where they can mass produce this stuff. So on these ones, it's like a clasp, and once it clicks on, that's great. But man, I've had some aggressive fish just freaking chuck my whole thing, and at that point, if I don't have a screw lock anymore, obviously you've got to switch out your terminal tackle. So I do take a little pair of pliers and kind of lock that piece over, so that the screw lock part itself I can't push it off. Anywho, that's my jazz for that.
No, it's all good. I got a couple comments here. Rewind Shot said, when you were talking about your owner underspin, kind of paddle tail, he's like, that's the exact rig with a 6 cent sexy shad whale that landed him 15 bass on Sunday. So man, getting it done. Also, new member. I need some type of like ring thing that I need to push whenever someone becomes a new member. Thank you so much for your
Confetti
support, brother.
falling from the screen.
I know that whatever.
That's awesome.
So I'm gonna have something next time. People become a member. So rewind, my man. Thank
That
you
is awesome.
so much for that. Man, we're coming up to our last minutes here. If you have a question for my chaotic fishing, Peter, go ahead and lay that on there. Actually, I've seen a conversation that's been taking place, like a side conversation that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I see everyone going back and forth about, like, obviously it's a personal preference question, right? How many rods is like the perfect amount of rods to carry? I'll answer first and I'll let you go. I mean, it's personal preference. Like, I know for me,
Yeah.
if I could have 8 or 12, I would carry it
15,
because
20.
I have 6 and I could carry all 6 and they don't get in my way. I have them fanned in the back. I've learned to side cast. I know exactly where they are. I never get them tangled up anymore. I did when I first started. But I just love, man, in a split second, I see something happening or I come around the corner and I see a swirl or I see it, they've been busting on shad recently and I don't want to spend 2 minutes tying up, reaching behind me, making a ton of noise. I just want to grab it, throw it, and catch that bass, and which I've been able to do recently. So the more the merrier for me,
The
but I
theory
also
is
know that's a
converted.
personal preference.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I
what
mean, the theory is converted, right? I don't have anything much different. I love respooling and tying up tackle and doing all that jazz in the garage.
in my garage.
Yeah, I could geek out,
Oh,
right?
that'd be
Like
hours in the
hour.
garage.
Oh, shit, it's 2:30 in the morning. We gotta get a little bit of my ugly sleep, but it's I don't like doing it on the boat. I'm on the boat or I'm on the bank or I'm on the kayak to have a rod in my hand and that bait in the water. Period. Right? That's I don't know if it's a bad mentality, if it's a good mentality, but that just I think that drives my you know I think the most rods I could fit, so I could do 6 on the crate and I could do 6. So I mean on a Teton Pro on the lifetime,
Mhm.
I don't think I ever did it to max it out, but I mean I could have 12 rods on that thing. Now
I mean,
there's a
have you had 10 before?
uh, I'm just gonna assume probably yeah, probably I have. I will say though, playing devil's advocate, right? A little bit of self-analyzing is that that then turns around and says, "Oh, that dude doesn't have a plan, or that dude's not really keyed into what's going to work." And that's not wrong, right? In terms of being exploratory, in terms of figuring out what is my target, where's the target, where are the fish at if they're moving from pre to spawn to post and all that different stuff. But
Yeah.
uh, but at the same time, I mean, man, if it was always if I had the ability to, before I even went fishing, to just say, I'm picking this up and this is what will catch them. I mean, in theory, it sounds great. But, then there's the other side of it is you go there and you bet wrong and, well, goose egg. So,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
I hear you. I hear
I,
you.
I like the condition thing where you see it and you're like, yep, turn around, grab it. It adds to my enjoyment just being able to do that. And so for that reason, like I said, my field of F flowers are barren, right? Don't care, because it contributes to my enjoyment of this sport. So
Yeah. No, I hear you. For me, I see fishing as a strategy game. So if I'm tying a lure, that means there's not a lure in the water and my chances go down. Um, and so, I mean, a lot of times I I just might get line twist and that rod is done. And if that was the only one, I've heard people say I only carry one, which is fine, carry one. But if that was the only one, I'm now spending the next 10 minutes cutting line,
those
rewriting it through my
people
guides.
those
And I just,
people get really good at one bait at a time, though. right? Like that is there are plenty of days where I go out, on a kayak or the bank. I don't do the boat just because there's more, time and investment that goes into when you go out on the boat. But bank and kayak, there are a lot of times where I'm like, man, I got, hit 5 or 6 times on this bait last time. How did I not catch a fish? And so not in a bad way. You play whatever mental games you play with yourself. But my punishment, if you will, is you get to go out with that one rod and that one bait, and you lock it in, and you learn it, you figure it out. Because let's be honest, like we can watch every YouTube video there is, you can listen to every conference, whatever you want to do. The way that you're gonna learn is when they hit it. Why did they hit it? All that different stuff. So
Yeah, time on the water, I get it. No, I mean it's like I said, personal preference and what's your goals and what's your why. And you know, are you just out there to have fun? Some people are out there to have fun primarily, catch fishing secondarily.
yep.
Um, other people are the opposite. Other people are out there, I only want bigs. I don't care if I catch 100 smalls. And so and that changes the answer for everybody. I'm curious if you're listening in, let me know if you run a yak, how many rods you typically run in your yak. I'm just curious to get kind of a general consensus through seeing everyone's comments there. Got one last question because we're technically over time, but there's really no time limit, so we're never really over time.
6 was
Um,
my short answer, by the way. That's
six is mine. I run 6 right now.
I've locked it down.
So let us know if you're listening in. There we go. I started with 2 to 3. Now it's around 8.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I bet that the reasons are similar, right? I saw
Yeah.
was it Bearded Gramps used to live in Carrollton. Man, you get that guy back on the show. Ask him, if he was fishing at that time when he lived in Carrollton. Ask him about all the little creeks out there. Man, that is
Okay.
Carrollton, Texas, like that area of the DFW, dude. There's so many. Doesn't matter if it's a corporate area and you've got those like drainage ditches, dude. There are so many juicy little. It's crazy.
All
It's
right.
crazy.
The bearded Gramps. I like that.
Yes.
There's actually the bearded, like the bearded dad and then fishing with
Yeah,
Gramps.
my
You combined them together.
That's awesome. That's rad. No, that was very cool.
I'm going to call him the bearded Gramps from now. He's actually on the show in 2 weeks from now. We do like a combined show about once a month. So we talk all the time. Oh my goodness. All right. Let's see what we got here.
Sorry.
9, Fowler and Friends. Big says he caps himself at 6, so it sounds like he can go further, but he doesn't. Rewind shot, 4 is my preference. Lost and tackle, 6. What else we get? Normally 6. 4 to 6. He just got off the water. That was awesome, Scott. Were you listening while you were fishing? Please say yes. So there we go.
The singing Englishman says we can now start the show.
Yeah, there we go. Morgan's here. Let's do it. Jeff Jones, 5 to 6. I like it. All right, got one question I'm going to finish on from Min Elias. And he said, if you two had unlimited budgets, can we just stop and think about that for a second? Unlimited fishing budgets. Sounds amazing. What kayak are you buying? I'm going to pass it off to you first. I'll finish up. And if you're listening in, let's have this little side conversation. If you had an unlimited budget, just throw out there what you would buy.
What do you have and what you would buy? And
there you go. What do you have and what would you buy?
Nothing and the thing, or it can be what you have, what you would buy. Man, to answer that question, it just wouldn't be honest. I've been really fortunate in my life. And so, and there's been times where we're using powdered milk for our cereal. You know what I'm saying? So it's been on far end of the spectrums. I don't like my AP any more than I liked my Lifetime, because while I had my Lifetime, it was freaking rad. It was everything I wanted it to do. Kind of that living in the moment and appreciating everything that's right in front of you right now. Not trying to get that somber vibe, but like man, tomorrow's not promised. So when somebody says, if you had a limited budget, would I buy a crazy car? No, I've driven cars that I'll never be able to afford. I've been on, but I've done a lot of that stuff, and what I can definitely say is that man, you wake up the next day and you just need to be stoked on it. And so, if I had unlimited budget, tomorrow, would I go out and buy something different than what I have? No, I've got the Tamarack in there for throwing over the back, and I've got the AP for, the longer trips. I can't answer it, dude. It wouldn't be any different.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. I can appreciate that. I respect that. For me, my knee jerk was like almost what everyone almost kind of puts up on a pedestal, right? You got your Pro Angler 12 or your Pro
Yeah.
Angler 14. Then I paused because those are all just pedal drives, which I already have 2 of, right? I got Native Slayer Propel 10, my first kayak ever. Skipped paddling, went straight to pedaling. And then I was like, all right, I want to try out the Bonafide. And since they have a pedal drive that I love, the Propel drive, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get the P127, since basically owned by the same company. I got 2 pedal drives. So I'm like, okay, I don't need a third. I would honestly get the autopilot. I really would. Gramps is talking about it so much. I've heard nothing but great things about it. I would love to be able to just not think about that part of fishing and just lock on. I like fishing in the wind, right? I'm going to be out there in the 15 to 20 mile per hour winds, and I'm the only kayaker out there, because I catch them in the wind when it's rough like that. I love it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So I think it'd be the autopilot. That's like what, a $3,200 yak, maybe a little bit more, 3,500.
Yeah, I think around 45. And it depends if you do the 120 or the 136. And I scored from, I won't name any guy that I bought mine from. It was brand new, never registered, up in Oklahoma. He won it from a series that he fished the previous year, but was already expecting another one from Old Town. So he had some projects for this one, then he just kind of held off. And then finally he was like, all right, well, I'm getting my other one next week, so I'm going to list this one for sale. And, when I saw the price, like, he even told me when I was up there, he's like, man, I didn't want to say that, I won it or anything. And I'm like, brother, something has value, whether you got it for $1,
you earned it,
or you paid full price, period. Yeah, absolutely. So, but what he listed it for, I was like, gone, done, now, let's go. Like, it was, I'm going to go drive 4.5, 5 hours, like, but we rolling. So, it was a little bit cheaper. It was a little bit cheaper than retail.
No, I've never bought a kayak off the showroom floor. Always been on Facebook Marketplace, and I've always driven at least 2 hours to get it. And for a steal, right? Made it worth it. Yeah. All right, let's look at some of these comments over here. Fisher Basson TV. He's got an Old Town Topwater 106. He'd get an autopilot. That's Bryce. That's my pro staffer, Cast Cray teammate there. Thanks for chiming in, brother. Lost and Tackle said a fleet. He just buy a fleet. He doesn't have to pick one. He's just gonna buy a fleet of them.
That's so scary. My mind almost exploded because you have a fleet. And so, like, to outfit each one, like, you customize it, and you just so many things.
What constitutes a fleet when you have so many kayaks? What is that number when it turns to becoming?
I'm gonna draw that line in the sand. It's a dozen.
It's a dozen. You have a fleet. Does anybody have a fleet of kayaks? I don't know. You might have like 7 kids, and everyone has a kayak, and I'm not sure. But Mr. Big Daddy's like, hey, I'd buy a whole set of digital brake controlled bait casting. He wants the Corrado DCs. That's what he wants. And yes, they are expensive. But yes, they have computer chips in them. There you go. There it is. I heard they sing when you cast it.
Hey, so, obviously with the affiliate stuff, so I've got all my deals at Bass Pro and all that different stuff. Look, these big retailers, they want your money. They're going to compete for it. But you as a consumer, you got to pay attention, right? Because you can knock the price of like on these other two, the other 2 rods that I've got the 150s. and they're DC. Dude, it's windy as shit in Texas sometimes. So like, absolutely. And people talk about them not lasting long. I fish a lot of hours. If you find yourself throwing gears on any reels, is it the reel? It might be, but also, you know, you might have like an 8-speed reel and you're throwing like 1 ounce baits. The physics behind that, right, is that you got little itty bitty tiny teeth. So you may want to slow it down to the 6-speed stuff, because they got bigger teeth. And yeah, I can definitely say I've, you know, been really happy with it. You can pick up when you do sales stuff. You know, Bass Pro does their Tuesday deal. So Tuesday is 10% off. You know, that's $20 off. So that knocks your 150 price down to about $165. If you, shameless plug, even though I don't benefit from this at all, but those pro qualifier, I was going to say second to the DC Shimano stuff. Most of my stuff is, you know, the Curados and the 150s. The only other reel that I have that I use is I think they're on sale for $69 right now at Bass Pro. The Pro Qualifier, it's like that dark gray one. Only other reel I use. I don't know who makes it. Pretty sure it's a rebadged Lose or whatever. But those reels and those rods. That's what I caught my PB on. Was a Bass Pro Qualifier. It was a heavy fast, had 20-pound fluoro, and a 6-speed Pro Qualifier reel. It's fishing a 316. It's like the 5-inch Rising Sun. Those, yeah. So the digital brake stuff is cool, but I mean, last night I was the one reel that I had that wasn't a DC was that Pro Qualifier reel, and I think I had a spinnerbait tied up on that to run it along the rocks, it being windy, right, and dark. And dude, I was firing that thing right into 20-mile-an-hour wind, and I generally run my braking pretty loose. I mean, if you open the bail, the bait, you jiggle your rod and it falls, but then on the other side, I generally run that at like 1 or 2 out of 10. It feels good in the hand. Dude, $60 till somebody shows me a better reel for $60-$70. That's bang for your buck. You will love it.
Say it one more time, in case someone's taking notes.
It's the dark gray Pro Qualifier reel and the rods from Bass Pro Shops.
Got it. So it's their brand.
It is, yeah. Which I think means it's a rebadged Lose, probably. But I don't know what Lose, and I get it cheaper as a Bass Pro label versus a Lose label. So
yeah.
I'm gonna roll with that.
I can't believe I missed this question. I actually wrote it down prior to the show, and we're at like an hour and a half. I usually go an hour. There's no rules on the KFO show. We can do whatever we want, right?
It's chaos.
So if you got the time, talk about Share Lunker. You got a PB, and I believe you have a Share Lunker, correct?
So I don't have what I think is a Share Lunker. So in Texas, we have the Texas Share Lunker program, and they class fish as lunkers at an 8. The Share Lunkers are your 13 plus, and the reason that they're called that is because between January 1st and March 31st, you can give your fish to the Texas Parks and Wildlife, and they're going to take that. They're going to do a couple things. They're going to pop a couple scales so that you can genetically test that fish and find out, what is it? Is it just a pure Florida? Is it a Lone Star bass, which is your hybrid cross? All that different jazz. And this was in a tournament. And so 8-2, I'd already caught my limit for the day, and it was on that 4-inch. They were up in the brush. This was about 6 weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago. East Texas Lake. They were up in the brush, and so I was just firing this thing up into bushes. By the way, I've had I'll say a lot. There's been 4 guides that have switched their fishing line from whatever it is you use to the $10 Bass Pro XL fluoro line. When you go like you're expecting to break your lure off, and you're pulling on this line, and you don't break your lure off, but you pull the rock out of the crevice, or you break the branch off the bush, like that's when you'll be like, I have faith in this line. Anywho,
No, don't move from
yeah.
that real quick because a lot of people are paying $20 for Seagar and Vizex, and
Nope, I won't do it. It's funny.
You have people. You
If
said who moved over to this $10
so
magical line?
a couple prominent Texas guides that, and you've seen them on social media. I'm not going to name drop them because I don't know how they feel about it. I know one of them has come out publicly and said, yeah, one of my, social media friends recommended. So he said it on one of their shows. And he's fallen in love with it. And then a couple other have messaged me and been like, this is real. First off, if you want to spend $30 on 150 yards of your favorite fishing line, because it's what does it for you and your sport, you're going to get 100% check from me. Absolutely. Go rock it. Like I said, with my marketing background, all that different stuff, I'm just not going to donate to that cause. It's $9.99 for your 150 yard little spool. It's in the gray box. It's Bass Pro XL. It's not made by Bass Pro. It is made by one of the other brands.
Is it rebranded Seagar like Rewind's saying?
Well, you pay. I can tell you that it's $26 if you get it with the other label on it.
Oh, so it's white labeled for Bass Pro Shops, and it's literally a $26 line.
Yes, absolutely. Like the plastic spool, the sticker that holds the tagline. I mean, it's that. And like I said, I'm just, that's $16 that I can take my kid to lunch with. That's $16 that I can, put in the gas tank. That's $16, and that adds up when you fish a lot and in cover and you're not afraid to lose a lure, at the expense of getting a good fish. Like you go through some line. I probably go through, like, I would say probably like a pack or two of that a week, with the 15 or 20 rods that I have, depending on what I'm fishing, where I'm fishing. I go through the stuff. So I like the price, but you'll be a believer when you get your jig stuck down in some rocks and you go to pull off because you think you're about to break it off, and then all of a sudden you feel like that rock come unwedged, or you break that branch off the tree or whatever it is. Like it's the truth, and I have no reservations about saying anything about it. But yeah, so I definitely, their mono, their fluoro, and their braid, the basic $10 boxes are a $26
deal in disguise.
Yeah, and like I said, everybody that has switched has just, they're religious about it now, and they're like, dude, I can't believe I paid that much for it. But
you know what? This alone, this could be like the juice from the show right here. Outdoor Conquest is, well, here we got Rewind. He's like, I heard it's just rebranded Seagar. You got Outdoor Conquest. He's like, it's rebranded Seagar. And then you have Outdoor Conquest. He's like, more specifically, it's the red label. And so it's a lot of people saying the same thing. I know you're not saying anything specific, but do a little research there. And hey, Excel, Bass Pro Shops, Excel.
All you gotta do is
$10.
go. It's 10, dude. It's $10. All you got to do is go buy that box and then buy your expensive box and take them out of the box and go, unless they're using the same plastic reel to wind this stuff on, and the same exact silver sticker to hold the tagline, and the same little mounting circle in the middle with the notch, like, it's the same. Oh, and they might even, now it does say, yes, it's the same plastic.
It's Seagar red label, folks. we are coming to deductive reasoning, and yeah, there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, but I have friends that, dude, if it makes you feel warm and fuzzy that you're paying $26 for 150 yards, then you know what? It's the same thing like going out to a bar, dude. I'd rather fire up the barbecue, have a few friends at home. You buy a case of beer for $20. Do that same amount of alcohol at the bar is going to be $150.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I hear you.
Everybody justifies it their own way. So.
No, save some money, buy a mag draft, have some fun with an 8-inch mag draft. I think it's a blast for me.
Speaking of, so mag draft or dangerous swimmer, obviously there's not a rigged version of that dangerous swimmer out yet. I will say that I've been happy with the dangerous swimmer. The material isn't as like it doesn't blow out, like, and I don't mean like how it swims. I mean, like, on a mag draft, I like the 6-inch, skipping under docks, all that different stuff. Don't need as heavy of a rod, as the 8-inch, but man, you catch like 2 or 3 fish on that, and you're going to be having to glue it back together. I get really good swimming action at a slow speed, so I get plenty of tail, I get plenty of body wobble, not like blowing out, but like, that main body wobble and shimmy that a good swim bait will do at a slow retrieval speed, with that danger swimmer. And it's the plastic is not, it's not the same. It is a little bit more durable, but it doesn't seem to sacrifice the action.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can dig that.
All right, right on.
Hey.
If you were still, I'm going to go back to this. If you're still a little skeptical, rewind's like, hey, seriously, an employee showed me the sticker label and the spool, and it's the same model.
I wasn't gonna go there.
I'm a believer now.
Yeah.
Save yourself some cash, folks. Man, it's been a blast.
Dude, it pays to watch your show tonight.
It does.
I gotta say.
It does. I love it. We got to wrap this up. We're gonna have to have you back sometime in the future. But guys, if you haven't yet, head over to, you're on Instagram, you're on YouTube. Are those your 2 places? Stay rad.
Facebook, Instagram, mychaoticfishing.com. Yeah. That's where anything that I'm doing, it's all on there. I've hesitated for putting out a lot of video content. As far as my comfort level, I really want to contribute some value. Although I've had a lot of people that are like, bro, you just need to just hit record and share the experience. And so when I've convinced myself that there's enough value in that, I'll do that, more and more. But I appreciate, like, everybody that's on your show, man, is freaking rad. The conversations that are going on the side. This is an old podcast. Shout out to my homie that just surpassed 100,000 followers on YouTube.
Nice.
From pursuing his passion. But this was an old podcast that we were on. Things got wild. And but yeah, seeing the conversations going on the side, I've definitely been like, don't, I can't read the comments.
No, you go deep dark rabbit hole if you.
Yes.
I love it. I have to monitor it at the same time that I'm listening to you.
100%. I'm going back through all that stuff. But just so appreciative of the community that you've built, stuff that I've learned from your show. Like I said, went back and had to review a couple of your old Kydex videos, because I was just like, man, there was a little something. But yeah, no, absolutely love it. It's just My Chaotic Fishing. So Facebook, Instagram.com, all that jazz. And yeah.
Well, thanks everyone. Please help me out. Hit that like button. Help to get some replay value out of this show. And I will see you next week. We have Paul from Cincy Fish Dudes. I'm going to hop on. He does a lot of creek fishing down in Cincinnati. I was just down there last week with him fishing. He put me on the juice. So we'll talk about that. I got a video coming out on Thursday about that trip. And so it's going to be a blast. See you next Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much, Peter. And good luck to you, man. We'll have you back.
Thank you all so much. Definitely appreciate it.